Welcome to where the screen door slams and the coffee mug hits the table. You're listening to The Family Balancing Act with me, Maureen Huntley, mom, grandmother, and board-certified holistic and functional medicine health coach. Each episode will explore the realities of your day-to-day family life in this modern era of nonstop texts, memes, and technology. After all, how do we keep ourselves sane and our family healthy? I'll have amazing guests and thought-provoking discussions, and we'll take a holistic look at family health, emotional, physical, mental, and spiritual. Whether it's a micro perspective of family involving healthy snacks, teenagers with an attitude, stressed out husbands, partners, adult children, potty training, elder care, grandchildren, college prep, or a macro perspective of world events, including flu, earthquakes, the brainwashing media, finances, and oh, so much more. We'll find a way together. So take a deep breath, exhale, and know that you're not alone. Bring on the Family Balancing Act. Welcome to the Family Balancing Act, where restoring the heart and art of motherhood starts with one conversation at a time. I'm Maureen Huntley, your host, board-certified integrative holistic and functional medicine health coach, emotional freedom technique practitioner, mom, grandmother, wife, and CEO of my family's home operations. So, do you talk to yourself? To God? Are you getting the message? I mean, are answers showing up for you? Look, life nudges us forward, sending us little signs that we can follow or not. Hey, it's free will. I firmly believe that everything I say, think, and do are prayers. And those prayers are always being answered. Maybe not how I like them to be answered, or I think they should be, but they are being answered. Well, on this episode of the Family Balancing Act, I am so honored once again to have GeorgetteVanVliet as my guest. She is smart, she is fun, and she's a ball of energy. She's a life coach and an author whose books highlight how important self-care and self-reflection are in attracting your dream life. So I so needed some self-care, self-reflection, and time to meditate, pray, and be. And I'm so blessed to have attracted it as my Mother's Day gift. Yep, my Mother's Day gift. I did have to guide them that way, though. But when I got into my car, heading out to a writers' conference and retreat that my children had signed me up for, all the way from the Northeast down to Georgia, I was overwhelmed with how grateful I am for my family. And it was the break I so needed. The time to write, to breathe, to move, to pray, to meditate, and really just to be. And there it showed up. Well, both on the way there and on the way back, I got to visit friends and reconnect with beautiful, beautiful women that I hadn't seen in years. And the joy of those connections still fill my heart to the max. I think about it now, weeks later, and my heart just still leaps for joy about our deep conversations. And then, as I continued on my merry way, I arrived at my destination. Driving into the parking lot of the retreat center, I was filled with such anticipation for what could be. I didn't know anyone going to this, and it was a huge leap of faith to just leap into doing it. So I backed up my car into a rather tight little spot, and I sat there and I took a deep breath and I gathered up my purse, my keys, and my phone, and I sent the intention it was going to be great. And then I wedged myself out of my car as to not hit the car I was parked next to with my door. Well, maybe I was concentrating on that just a little too hard, as I had the flush of fear fall over me as I tapped the white vehicle next to me. In my car, it's dark gray. And I closed my car door and I looked at their car door, and phew, nothing had happened. It was just a tap. I saw that the owner and the driver in the car with the window open in the passenger side. And I called in. "Excuse me," I said. There was no response. I thought, I'll try again. "Excuse me." And I could see her lips tighten. "I tapped your car and I just wanted you to know. It looks okay, but I just wanted you to know." And as I spoke, I could see the rage rise up in her. Yet she wouldn't look at me. She wouldn't speak to me. And she wouldn't get out of the car. I was confused. Oh, great way to start my getaway, I'm thinking to myself. Watch, this person's going to be at the retreat. Maybe I should just go back home. Maybe I'll just get in the car now and I'll just go right back home. And then I thought, no, that would not be good for my kids. So I went around to the passenger side of the car and I sat down and I grabbed a water and an apple. And I thought, although I really had to go to the bathroom like no one's business, I had to wait to see what would happen next or if everything was okay. Well, this driver got on her phone and started cussing and cursing and screaming at the poor soul on the other end of the phone about what this witch, that would be me, that had opened her car door into her car. And after a few minutes, she stopped talking and then got out of her car and walked around to see the car door I had tapped. And then she walked back around her car and got back into her car and again on the phone and started screaming again, until a happy young man came out of the building, bounding towards her car. He was so happy. He was filled with joy. And as he got into the car, she unloaded on him. And then she peeled out of the parking lot, screaming at him with expletives about moi. I could hear it for a good 30 seconds after they were gone from view. I felt numb. I didn't know what to do. I sat there praying for them, for her, for us, for me. And then I started using my emotional freedom technique, tapping. Then I composed myself. I gathered my stuff. And as I did, this beautiful, very tired woman pulled into the now empty space with her car. And she asks me, "Are you here for the writer's retreat?" So thank God, I said to myself. And she too had traveled far and she was tired and hungry and was desperate for this break. Well, over the next few days, we became fast friends. But if I hadn't had the angry lady stop me in my tracks, so I'd have to wait it out in my car, I'm not so sure I would have connected with my new friend at all. Other things would have happened. I'm in absolute awe of how every action creates a reaction that creates a path. So many choices could have been made, but sometimes when I just sit with it, well, actually, I was afraid to leave my car as I thought she'd do something to it, but I sat with it. It gives me space to experience exactly what I'm supposed to experience. And when I stop trying to control a situation or the other people, I find miracles happen. And if somebody I have on today who knows all about miracles is my guest, GeorgetteVanVliet. She is a life coach and an author whose books highlight how important self-care and self-reflection are in attracting your dream life. She shares her own experiences of dealing with depression and anxiety and how central the law of attraction is in helping her heal every single day. She has inspired many, many people through her coaching practice, her books, as well as her amazing and motivational speaking engagements and her social media presence. I am so very honored to have you, Georgette, today. You blow me away with everything you do and how you reach others with your wisdom. So welcome.
Thank you, Maureen. That's a wonderful introduction. Thank you so much.
Oh,
Nice to
no.
be here again with you.
I know. Well, I love having you with me, and you're just we're kind of two peas in a pod, or each side of the coin, or, we get it with a lot of this energy and the crazy stuff that happens but when we let go and let God and let the law of attraction and let all that beautiful energy that's out on the planet and focus on the good, just letting it be, come to us.
I
It
think you
attracts.
summarized it all when you said everything we say and think is a prayer. I wrote it down. What a great way to live your life, right? Like before you even say anything, you're saying a prayer. And to really think about your words and what you're thinking about. Thank you. That was great today.
Oh, thank you. I really do believe that, but often, being in my humanness, I will say something, and then it will dawn on me that I just said a prayer asking for something I really don't want. And that's the law of attraction. And we can say, our dream board, you put it out there, you write about it, you meditate on it, you pray, but you see yourself attracting. But if we're not aware of this as we walk through life, that everything we're doing is either bringing that to us or bringing the other thing to us, or nothing. We're stale because we're confusing the energy. We're confused. God's like, okay, enough. I have tried to communicate. I've tried to make this very clear. They're not picking up on it. So
I feel like in the last, especially lately, because I've been doing so much work around this for years and trying to understand my own frustrations and my own depression. And I think lately what I've realized about the law of attraction, the beauty is to want something, but to also be so grateful for what you already have. And I think that's where people trip up, like, I really want this, but we have to remember we have a lot. You have a lot in your life. Your life is wonderful. It's okay to want more, but it's also important to be grateful for what you have. I think that really eases us into, the beauty of, attracting what we want.
yeah. And sometimes I feel like the word gratitude isn't big enough
Mm.
for what I have in my life. And it's really about relationships and people. It's not the things. The things are a nice little add-on, but once you have your things that you've set out there to get, you're going to want other things. And the things never end. And then it becomes stuff we have to get rid of.
And
So,
even more so than people and relationships, even just being in complete awe that you can see, that you can hear, that you can move your hands, that you can walk, like just everything that we take for granted all day long about our bodies and our minds. If you really stop to think about it, you would be in awe. You'd be amazed at the incredible, all your abilities all day long that we just assume. You wake up, you jump out of bed, you go to work, you drive your car. Those are all amazing things to think about and to be grateful for.
yeah. And if we don't stay focused on what the possibilities are and what is it that really fills our souls,
Mm.
we don't kind of really connect to that. You have talked about the energy around asking yourself loads of questions, like just constantly pouring in the questions that move you forward rather than the questions of like move us back, or failure, or why me, the pathetic person story.
Victimhood.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say, I was the queen of victimhood, not on purpose. I didn't know any better. I didn't know. I was the queen of why. And you're right, it doesn't move you forward. It just keeps you stuck in a little circle and you have no answers and no solutions. And I think when I was at my worst, really with depression and feeling like, why is my life so stuck? Why do I feel so unlucky? And asking myself the question, what makes me happy? Like, what do I want? And realizing I had never asked myself that before. And so,
Wow.
of course, I wasn't feeling fulfilled. I didn't know what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
It's a
I was on a call yesterday, with a group of women, and we were talking about what we want, getting very clear, and setting our goals. And it was like a goal setting call, or just really getting clear about what you want, like one thing you really want. And one of the women, who's a little older, was like, she responded with, I don't really know what I want. I've achieved X, Y, and Z. And I don't even think you have to be older to get to this place. You can be, 40 and being, well, I've done all this. I'm a mom and I'm doing this. I always wanted to be a mom, but I never thought about beyond that. Or I wanted my relationship to be like this, but things are getting a little stale now, or there's things we're not communicating clearly, or we're trying, but what energizes the clarity around the intention?
That's a great question. And I think what you said earlier about it's that conflicting energy. Like, who am I to ask for more, right? I have a beautiful home, I have a family. Who am I to ask for more? Or the guilt you feel about wanting more, being ambitious. I think a lot of us struggle with that. And I think that that's why it's so important to be able to say, I'm so blessed. I have my family, or I have my great job, or whatever it is that you have, like feeling really blessed about what you have, and also being excited to have more, like being okay with that, being okay to ask for whatever it is that you want, and really understanding that's where the inspiration is. The energy comes when you're excited and you're looking forward to something. And I know you and I have talked about this with our business. Like, I love what I do. Like, this gives me so much energy and passion. If I weren't doing it, I do think a part of me would die. So that's where I think people have to get clear. Like, don't feel guilty that you want more. Don't worry about other people not having, or what's happening in someone else's life. That's their journey. That's their story. But you need to be okay with asking for more, or asking for what you want, and then going for it and having no guilt.
Yeah. Yeah, because we can't fix anybody else. We can't change what anyone, and be our children, our spouses, our parents, our neighbors. We cannot change what they want, what they think, what they do. Nothing. We can guide, but we cannot change anything. And it's so easy to get caught up in the anger, like the story I had with that woman. I was bewildered as to why this is an attack on me, but it wasn't an attack on me. Something had happened to her. Something wasn't right. And if I had really damaged the car, I'm sure she would have unleashed on me. So, but it was just an easy tag to do that. And I think to take and turn it around, as I did, just to be open. And I think that's what happened, was that I was like, okay, handing this back to this person. And that's what we have to do when we get out there and we want to find what energizes us.
You brought up, I know you told me this story earlier, and I loved when you told me the story that you prayed for them because they needed a prayer. Like, nobody wants to be that angry. That's no way that nobody could be happy living their life with that much anger. So I thought it was great that you said a prayer, but I also think, and I love that you brought this up, because here's where I know for me, my energy has been drained for years. I would have thought about that and focused on that. Why'd that happen? That's not where you want to put your energy. Like, you were going to a writing workshop. You had to focus on writing. Or for me, when things like that happen, like something happened this morning with the work situation, if I focus on that, I wouldn't have the energy to talk to you right now the way that I am. So it's really thinking about, well, do I have control over this? If the answer is no, what can I focus on? What's important to me? And that's where you direct your energy.
That's beautiful, because I know that what you're referencing with work, and that's a miracle. Like, even the miracle for me in the moment was when that other woman got out of the car, and she was like, "Oh, are you here for the writer's workshop?" I was like, "Yes." So then I was back, but I had to give up the prayers. I had to give up the energy back to the other people, or back to that other woman.
Yeah.
And just trust that was taken care of. And that immediately opened up for me. I mean, she could have parked somewhere else. It could have been another situation.
Or you could have, maybe years past before you did all this work. This would have been me years ago. This beautiful woman would have gotten out of the car, and instead of enjoying the moment, I'd be like, let me tell you what just happened to me. And I would have gushed this negativity, even just saying that I can feel the energy. And it probably would have ruined my weekend.
Right,
So
right. To
doing
keep that
this
going.
work, right, doing this work and understanding energy and focus really helps you. Like you said a prayer, you let it go. Someone came in and filled it with
Build it
beautiful
up. And I will be
energy.
honest. I will be honest, because when I did see her and she did say, I said, oh, I just had something very jarring happen to me. And it's so nice to meet you. But I did touch on it. So it wasn't like I could let it go completely. And it definitely, it took, but it's a process. It really
Yes.
is a process. So what are some other questions we can ask ourselves to get to that place?
So I love, obviously, what do you want? And if someone doesn't know what they want, like for me, I journaled that question every day for about 6 months. What do I want? And I allowed whatever I wanted to flow on the paper. Like I just allowed myself to be. So that's a really good question to really focus on. And it's okay if it changes. It's okay if you say, what do I want today? And tomorrow it's different, and the next day it's different, because what your mind is doing for you is sifting and sorting. It's helping you get to the place of clarity. It may not happen right away. So like if I were somebody that were practicing this, I would have fun with it. I would just write, and I
Play.
would write I would just write every day with fun, and the idea of it's, if it changes, that's okay. I'm learning about myself. I'm learning about what I want. And maybe even when you're writing that, this happened to me, happens to a lot of people. You remember something that you enjoyed doing when you were a child. Like I used to love to write poetry. I forgot that. I used to love to sew. I used to love to sew. Like, so there are things about us that we may have suppressed and forgotten. So that's a really great question. And of course, what will make me happy? Like just knowing what will make me happy. And for a lot of us, we expect our spouse to make us happy. We want our children to make us happy. It's, you know, we've got to get to the substance of ourselves. Like, I love to read, that makes me happy. Or I love to go for walks, that makes me happy. And I talk about this a lot. I'm not talking about shopping. A lot of times we do things that are not that you don't need to go shopping, but it's about substance, like what fills you, like really getting to the core of what fills you
Yeah, the
and what
Ferrari
energy.
isn't going to necessarily fill you. Yeah.
Right, right. Yeah, like you said before, things. And I love things. Don't get me wrong. I love to go shopping, but I know now that that's not where I look for the fulfillment. I know that's not going, because like you said, if I get a Jaguar, I'm going to want a Ferrari or whatever it may be. If I go on
Right.
vacation here, I want to go there. And that's great. Those are all great. But about fulfillment and about happiness and joy that I'm looking for in my life all day long, I don't want it to be fleeting. Like, oh, this made me happy for a minute. Then,
Right,
how can I
right. The
keep
up,
my,
the down, the up,
right?
the down. And that's why I call these miracles, because when you do finally like click into, oh gosh, I used to sew. I think I'm going to try to sew something. Or I used to snow. I used to sew. I used to play in the snow, being from
Yeah,
the Midwest, ice skate and knit. Um, and so those things do bring me joy. I might not be any good at them anymore, but to get a little frustrated, but to actually connect the things we used to do,
yeah,
because they build on who we become. And I often look at people who talk about, well, I don't know what to do as a career and blah, blah, blah. I want to change my career. A lot of women, I know, friends of mine and women that I've connected with, they're kind of lost in what they want to create. And this is where clarity gets really funky. And as I have worked through this too, I know you have also, it kind of comes from where we started in life. What were the things we like to do? What are the things we like to do with people? We like to be helpers. We like to be of service. We like to listen to stories. We like to tell stories. And you're a fantastic writer. Georgette is a fantastic writer. She's
thank
also an
you.
incredible editor. She's edited things of mine, but she's so connecting back to this the things we used to like to do, but then they become broader because we've become broader.
Right. And there are some things you can't do. Like at my age, I'm not going to rollerblade again. I'm not going to take that chance of falling. Like I used to love to rollerblade. So it's also that change too. Like as you age, what's realistic? What are you willing to do? And I think a lot of what we're talking about, like getting connected to yourself, it really happens in the quietude, like the silence, which a lot of us, if we have families, if we have busy jobs, if we're commuting, we don't have much of that. So even like your prayer, again, prayer, it's that quietness within you. It's, it's just finding time to really connect to that. And I know that one of the biggest things I talk about a lot in my workshops and in my books, it's going for a walk and like listening to the birds chirping, feeling the breeze on your face, like really connecting with the simplicity of life that a lot of us forget, right? How many times do we?
With all that is, and that is that quiet within is also the quiet without. And that is God energy. That is God. That is the all of creation, what was created. And not, and like keeping busy, busy, busy. I know, look, and moms and even, just women who are working all the time, or fur mommies, whatever. We're always busy. We're taking care of the animals. We talked about that. Now they can just take over lots of your time and energy. Our children take over our time and energy. And even when they grow up and they've gone and they're living their own lives, we're still thinking about them. We're still thinking about, well, does Junior still do this? Does he miss my macaroni and cheese? Does he, whatever. It just, it's a fascinating life.
It's fascinating, but also like that also takes the focus away from you. It's very easy for us as women to think about everything else but ourselves because we don't know how to do it. So it's uncomfortable. If you haven't practiced, and I think a lot of women feel like, well, that's selfish. I don't want to be, it's nowhere near selfish to focus on your dreams and your goals. It doesn't mean you're ever going to neglect your children, even if they're grown, or your husband or the fur baby. Like, it's just about us making some space to be able to feel and to be able to connect to who we are. And you talk about God. I believe in God, and I've spent a lot of time alone in the last few years, really trying to connect to myself, feeling disconnected and trying to connect. And whatever the word people want to use, the universe, spirit, boy, when you spend time alone, you realize God is right here. Like your intuition, your ability to feel things internally is so strong if you allow yourself to feel it. If you build in that time and it's uncomfortable in the beginning, like spending time alone in the beginning, to me was like my skin was crawling. I wanted to do something and call someone, but I forced myself to do it. And once I worked through that and my nervous system calmed down, boy, it was the most peaceful, beautiful place that I can tap into now anytime I want to.
That's beautiful. And you can do that at on and off during the day, just to connect with that. And when you do, you realize that's what you come from. That's where we started. That's where we'll end, hopefully. But it's
to know that for the rest of my life, I never have to ask anyone else, what do you think of this? All I have to do is stop and ask myself, and I get the answer. Like I no longer have to look outside of myself for anything. And that's what a strength and when you want to talk about where your confidence comes from, that's where your confidence comes from.
And knowing you for years now, I want to acknowledge you on that. That is, I have seen you grow in confidence, and it's beautiful. And it's you do the work, you do your work, you do exactly what you talk about. You talk about like making really big changes in one's life, and they can be big, small, any kind of changes, but it starts with the steps of moving forward and taking the time to go within. And I know for me, my big issue is often looking towards the people I love in my life to validate my very existence, to tell me I'm doing something well, or to see me as something that I think they just automatically through osmosis should know. And that's not fair to them. It's not fair to me to be constantly grabbing in that. So that's been an internal battle for years.
Yeah, and I find that when you learn how to do this, when you really spend time alone, and you get really real with yourself, and you know who you are, you know what you want, you learn how to make yourself happy. All of a sudden, the marriage gets better. All of a sudden, the relationship with your children gets better. All of a sudden, everything gets better. And if something has to go, like if you have to move, or maybe if the marriage does have to end, at least you've done the work on yourself. I think the hardest thing for me as a life coach is to watch people say, I'm unhappy, I'm going to get divorced. Well, to automatically blame the marriage or to blame anyone before you do the work on yourself and say, well, how, what's my part in it? What can I do first? What can I look at in my life? What can I fix? What's even small changes can I make within my own sphere before I make a big decision like that? And I think
Right.
that's a huge one for me. If I can get that across to people more than anything, before you change the job, before you change the relationship, work on yourself. Because when you feel good, everything changes. Everything. It's a miracle. That's the miracle too. And I know I've talked about this a lot. Years ago, in my deep depression, when you met me and I could barely talk, I was like this. I thought my marriage was stinky. I wasn't happy with my life. As I did the work on myself, everything has improved. I have a great marriage. I have a great relationship with my son, who we just saw again for the first time in years. And I told you today, my work situation is great. Like, so many things have shifted and nothing changed but me. So sometimes we're the traffic jam, right? Sometimes it's us. And I can look at myself and laugh and be like, all right, you're the one, you're the one that's been toxic at times. I mean, I'm the one that needed to change and grow. And it's been wonderful because like you said earlier, with the woman being so angry, that could have been me. That could easily have been me if I didn't do this work. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Could be any of us, and actually probably has been any and all of us throughout our lives. The choices we make, the anger we have around our children sometimes, or somebody's doing something wrong to our kids. I mean, God knows if it's something really horrific, you have every right to lose your mind. But if it's another small situation, um, it's a matter of just doing a check on yourself and where you're at. But you have
yes.
to do the inner work, find the peace within before you can actually make a really big difference. And that ping, being the ping, as I call it,
Perfect. I like that.
the pebble in the water.
Mm.
And if we all become the pebble in the water, or the ping, the vibration goes out from us, and everything else around you starts to change. And I've had some stuff recently in my life, which we'll talk about in a later podcast, but where miracles they just keep happening. And the more I talk about it, the more I announce that, I declare it. Miracles are happening in my life constantly now. They really are. Just things I never thought would be resolved, things I never thought could be possible, things I thought were ending are not ending. It's me that has changed, and it's the ping.
And if we
Thank
could
you.
look at the ping, I love that. If all of us can look at the ping, like the minute you're upset with someone and you look at it as a ping, won't it change what you're going to say? Like, maybe you're about to yell at someone or tell them off. Maybe it would help you say it in a nicer way, or a more constructive way, in a more loving way, to be building relationships and to be spreading positivity and support to people. Like, if you could just see that everything's a ripple, how much that would affect the way you respond to any situation. I love that. I love that.
Love. It's love. It's joy.
Mm.
And yes, of course, on the, emotional scale, we're going to feel everything because we're humans, and we're going to feel, rage, anger, joy, happiness, love. We're going to go through the whole thing. But it is toxic when we're not trying to do the work. And so when a woman, moms are so busy, or when grandmothers are exhausted because they're helping, as I know, helping with kids, and working and doing everything we do and just trying to get through life. And then there is all sorts of like life stuff happening. Where do you begin? How do you fit it into your life?
Well, I love what you just said about miracles happening everywhere. I forgot exactly how you say. You have to write that down in the chat box, right? But it starts with affirmations like that. It starts with like, you said that, it felt so good. And that's something that I want to write down, because what I do is I'll write that down and I'll say that all day long. It's really about us building our belief system in ourselves. It's about believing that, that life is a miracle, that life is joy, that there's love everywhere. It's just, so that no matter what's happening, no matter how upset you may be, like for me, I know you were just tapping before, I'm always doing this, love, love, love. I see love in this situation, because I can be so angry, right? But if I do this, I see love in the situation. No matter what the situation is, I can find a better solution than yelling, raising my voice, telling someone off, which, by the way, I haven't done in years. I just don't live my life like that anymore. Thank goodness. It makes me feel good. But it all starts with this. It all starts with being able to stop yourself. And yeah, that too. Like the other day, something, a memory came up, and it was such a trigger about not being supported, not feeling supported. And I was like, no, we're not going there. We're not going there.
Right.
And the minute I was able to tap, and then the next thing I do is, so I was feeling unsupported, something happened, I was feeling unsupported, but the next thing I do is say, of course you're supported. Again, an affirmation, of course you're supported. And I think of all the people in my life who've supported me. Maybe I don't feel it today, but I've had support my entire life. My grandparents, I can think of beautiful memories, friends, you have supported me. Like,
you've supported me.
Yeah. So like,
comes from all
these
different
things,
directions.
right? And is it true? Like when you're feeling those negative, when you're getting angry, when you're getting upset, like to stop and go, is it really true? Like, is it true that no one, like as a coach, will call, I love it, like they want to date, no one loves me. Is that really true? Your mother loves you, right? Even if she's passed, she loves you, your father, your puppy, whatever. There's love everywhere. There's support everywhere. And so even, does that feel good even saying it energetically?
It does.
Yeah.
It does. Because our ancestors support us. They're on the other side. God supports us. Jesus supports us. They support us. But here we're so caught up in this world we're in that we get our heads clouded over with the words coming at us and that. So something that I continue to work on, and just want your reflection on this, I find that as I listen more than talk, although on a podcast I talk more than I should sometimes, but to really hear what someone is saying and not think about the next thing I'm going to say.
It's beautiful. I have to work on that as well.
It's
I have
hard
to
work.
work. Yeah, definitely have to work on it as well. I did want to say though that just back to the other comment, like like you just said, like we get frustrated with life and it's life. But if you really think about it, what are you frustrated about? So like sometimes when I get upset about, like I've gained weight and I get frustrated about that. I'm like, how did I let this happen? But then when I think about it, okay, so really that's the only thing that's bothering you right now? That's okay. Like sometimes we think the weight gain is everything, but in the big picture, it's really not. If other things are going well in your life, focus on those things. You can try to lose weight, work on it, but to make it the center of your frustration or your angst, I think, and maybe that would help us all listen better too. That's a really good, if we didn't have so much angst, right? If we could just, like, it's okay, everything's okay.
Right. To just make peace with it all.
Yeah, and to work on things. It's okay that I have to lose some weight. It's okay. It's okay that I'm still working on my business and building. It's okay. But yeah, like peace with everything else. That's,
yeah. And actually the gratitude around the stuff, the crap that doesn't work, to be grateful for how it shows up, why it shows up, how it shows up, and how it's not going to be given that much of a light anymore.
And also to kind of like, I love to say to God, like, all right, what do you want me to learn here? Like when something's not working out as fast as I want it to, it means there are more life lessons in this. So whatever it is that I'm struggling with has taught me so much. There's so much to learn. And so if something isn't working out yet, if I don't have exactly what I want, I'm still working at it. So therefore I'm still learning. I'm
Right,
still
right,
growing. Right. So
right.
there's
I
just,
love it.
yeah, it's just all about like, okay, like I'm meant to learn more here. And I do believe that whether it's you want to meet your soulmate or whatever, or you're working on a relationship, whatever it may be, when you finally get whatever you're meant to learn, it's that ping, right? It's that aha moment of, oh, now things are going to come together.
Mhm.
So we're just growing and learning and, working. Hopefully all of us are working at pulling it all together to feel successful, love, and whatever it is that we want.
And success, who knows what success is? Success, it's really love, it's joy, it's
Yeah.
happiness, it's not allowing the crazy distractions of life to pull us away. Because that to me is almost demonic. You know
Mm.
what I mean? Like I find that with those distractions are the, for better term, is the devil pulling us away from our true essence, is the energy, the negative energy pulling us away from who we truly are, which is love and light.
And I agree with you. And if that is absolutely the definition of success, like I'm sorry, I just thought of something. I wanted to say it earlier. We should always be seeking the light, right? Like we should always be like, no matter what's happening, you're frustrated, you're angry, whatever negative emotions, seek the light. Like
Work
how
towards
can
the
you make it
light.
better? Always go towards the light. I always think about that with God and just that energy of, but I just lost my train of thought. I wanted to say something.
Yeah, but it's like that energy that pulls us away from the
Oh, right,
light
right.
is
So
is soul
back to
sucking.
success, right? Back to
Mhm.
like, you've got to feel good about yourself. You have to know and be confident that you're living your life ethically. You're not hurting anyone. You're feeling good about yourself, whatever it is that you're doing, whatever the work is that you do, or whatever, that you're doing the right thing. And I think
Mhm.
that's success. And I think that's when people, if you know that, nothing else will affect you. That ripple, like that demonic stuff won't affect you.
Oh, I love that. Thank
Yeah.
you. I think that secrets are the big thing that pull people away from their true essence. And, they
Great.
say, oh, I just a little white lie. I've done this little thing
Mhm.
here. And we all do it. We all do them. Not everybody has to know our, some of our secrets, but the big secrets that affect other people and how we treat others, how we treat ourselves need
It's
to be
Yeah,
addressed.
and it's also that's a detached, not detachment. That's like you're just pushing people. You're not connecting when you're living secrets. And not that you have to tell everybody everything, but I know exactly what you mean. Like
Just
if
acknowledge them for yourself.
right, it's true, and also just not detaching. That's the wrong word. When you don't share with someone, you're not connecting. Like our lives were meant to be connected and support one another. So if you're trying to do something alone, if you're in shame or whatever, you're not connecting with people. You're pushing them away, and that makes it worse. That brings more negativity.
Mhm.
So sometimes I think when you connect, you just feel so good. It just feels so good to
Soul connect, just
yeah.
connect by soul and just find that way forward and releasing the negativity. So when now you still journal every day, when do you tell your clients, or when do you recommend journaling? Is it first thing in the morning, or is it whenever you're feeling it throughout the day, or is it before you go to bed at night, or is it all those times? It can be
It's all
overwhelming.
those times. For me, I started journaling with Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way.
Hmm.
Beautiful, the morning pages. So I've been doing it in the morning for many, many years. But there have definitely been times when I journal in the afternoon, in the evening. It depends on what I need. So there was a time like a couple of years ago when I was going through a really difficult time, very, very difficult. And I had no confidence in myself. I was completely depleted, and I needed to journal every afternoon. Like every afternoon I would make a list of all the things I thought about myself. Like, you're not good enough, you're this, you're that, like all these. I had so much negativity. And then I would sit and write the opposite in the second column. And I would do that. I did that for a long time. Like, that was a beautiful practice for me. Back to the affirmations of like consistently saying, you're good enough. I choose happiness. Of course I can have what I want, or whatever I wrote, just really retraining my brain to believe in myself and to know that I was worthy. So I had to do a lot of work around that. And then some people like to journal at night because it sets into their subconscious. They could dream about it and visualize it in their dreams. That's wonderful too. So there are many ways to journal, but you have to be consistent. Whatever you choose, you should do it every day or every other day, whatever you can do.
Right, right. And it doesn't have to be a dissertation. It can be a 1-minute blip.
Absolutely. I mean, for me, it was a little bit longer because I had to pour out all this stuff. I had to get all of this out of me. If you don't feel that way, if you're just journaling just to figure out what you want and it's simple, that's fine too. You want to make a list. No one has to look at your journal. There's no judgment. You do it your way, but it has to feel good to you. You have to like, when you're done journaling, like feel them smiling. It has to feel good.
I know a lot of people, or I read many places that it's great to, you purge, you get it all out of you. You keep writing and writing and writing. And, some of us live in homes where people might look at our journals or we might leave it out because we're busy and things. So I've heard, taking and not rereading what you've written, just letting it be because you've released it, and then ripping the pages up and out. You can burn them and send them to heaven or whatever, or I don't know, bury them in the backyard. But do you have a feeling around what one does with a journal when they're kind of moved through it?
I do. I journaled for many, many years, and it was all a dump. I hate myself. I hate the way I look. I'm mad at my mother. I can't believe this happened. Blah, blah, blah. And then one day I was like, this is not getting me anywhere. So I stopped journaling anything negative. Anybody can come in my house and read my journals. They're all about my ambition, about my goals. So I've taken all that energy and turned it into, what do I want? Like, and I've just stopped complaining in my journals. And again, you can do whatever you want. You can burn it, you can throw it in the garbage. I used to soak them in water so nobody could read it and throw it out. But I have to say that when I stopped doing that and started focusing on solutions, what do I want? What makes me happy? My journaling got very, very, it got more educational for me. Like, it really became something like,
like therapy.
Exactly. And also back to that intuitiveness, like when I spent time alone and I learned that God was within me and I would allow myself to write whatever I wanted, my intuition was spelling things out for me. So it was beautiful. It was beautiful.
It's like an automatic writing experience,
right?
Where you're just
I just let it flow,
letting it flow,
let it
letting
flow.
it flow.
And
That's beautiful.
And there's a, typing it isn't the same as letting it go from your head down your arm into your hand to write, like the kinesthetic. So
totally believe that. I totally believe that. A lot of people, they talk into their phones and that's how they journal. I'm not big on rereading. Sometimes I am big on it, but I really don't want to reread what I've purged. I want to move through it and just release it. I love the idea of soaking it. I've actually torn it up and burned it before. But I think it's great to just let it go and let God. And then I love the positivity piece because I know that I've had to clear it out and then start working on a more positive or change the discussion within my writing. And the discussion is me and God, me and whomever I'm having stuff with, but really changing it to a more positive outlook.
Because for 10 years I wrote about how I want to lose weight. I didn't do it. You know what I mean? Like, I was writing the same things over and over, like the dump. And then I realized I'm just dump. I'm not fixing it. I wasn't doing anything. It wasn't moving me forward. So I'm not saying you should never dump. Sometimes you do have to dump. Sometimes I haven't done it recently, but I've had to scream. I've had to go and in my car and let it out when I'm driving, or maybe I've said things in my car that no one can hear that I just need to get out.
Hopefully.
You do it. But as far as writing it, I started to really shift it to what do I want? What energizes me? So I could really move in that direction, because there was no movement before that. I wasn't even taking, when I was in my deep depression, I couldn't even take small steps. It helped me move forward. So that's kind of that's been how I've been journaling for like the past 10 years now.
That is fantastic. And it's also about what you don't want.
Right.
When you write,
Right.
I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be negative anymore. I don't want to be complaining anymore. I don't want to hate my husband anymore. I don't want to hate, whatever it is that you're working through. Well, as we close today, I want all our listeners to know where they can find you, where they can find your books, a little bit about your books, because they really are powerful little.
Thank you. Yes, my books they're on Amazon, but they're also on my website, which is my name, GeorgetteVanVliet.com. That's also my social media handle. I post videos every day, motivational videos on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok. And my books are about, obviously they started with my journey. When I was in my deepest depression, I became a self-help guru. I really just, devoured anything I could and learned and practiced. So my books are about the habits and the skills that you need, because I think when I was in my deepest depression, I had no skills to get out of it. I didn't know how to get out of it. I had no idea. And a lot of the stuff in my books too is about learning to communicate, because I've been married for 25 years and I know we've had this conversation. And I had no idea how to communicate with someone. I had no idea besides, everything's great. But when things got complicated, right? Mortgage, children, it's like, well, what do you do now? And, like most marriages, there was a lot of silence in our home because he didn't know how to communicate either. And learning how to be able to say, you know what, I don't know how to say what I need to say. Can you just hear me out? And let me say what I need to say without judgment. And just learning how to talk to each other. So it's really about those skills and those habits that we need to feel good about ourselves. That's what all my books are about. And they're all ebooks. They're simple. They're quick, because I know when I was in the height of my depression, even though I wanted to read a 300-page book, I couldn't. That wasn't happening. So
right.
I try to keep them like at 50 pages, quick,
Right.
Quick tips.
That's great, because I know that they help so many people. And I'm, again, so grateful to have you on today. And we'll definitely have another bigger conversation around another piece of intentions and wellness. So if you take a moment, just close your eyes, take a big, deep breath.